Welcome to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship, where we keep it real about what it takes to build, grow, and thrive. Here, you'll hear the unfiltered journeys of women entrepreneurs from everywhere, the wins, the setbacks, the lessons, and the behind the scene truths of aligning, starting, and scaling our businesses with purpose. Because let's be real, this road ain't always pretty. From battling self doubt to juggling responsibilities and facing the pressures to have it all figured out, this hustle can be pretty heavy. That's why this space exists to fuel you with the motivation, drop strategic gems on the topics that matter most, and remind you you are not in this alone. This is the Woman's Hustle. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the Woman's Hustle, Thrills and Spills of Entrepreneurship. It's your girl, Coach K, tuning in with another dope session and conversation. Listen, if you have not done so, please make sure you have subscribed to Upgraded Mindsets Media here on YouTube. If you are listening on your favorite podcast streaming platform because someone sent you this phenomenal episode, then make sure that you are favoriting the Woman's Hustle so you don't miss the next episode that is going to be just as phenomenal. All right. So you guys know I love talking about the thrills and the spills because we don't talk about that enough when it comes to our journeys of becoming business owners as women. And I have a guest with me today that is going to really help us dive into that a little bit more. And I'm super excited to chat with her. So I'm going to allow her the honors of introducing herself. Hello.
Hello, Coach K. How are you today?
I am well. Thank you so much for blessing the Woman's Hustle today. Tell the listeners who you are and a little bit about you.
My name is Hartley Klinger. I am an entrepreneur, business owner, and author. I started very late in life in this journey. I didn't get started until I was 40, newly divorced, raising the last of my 3 kids. I always side hustled along the way to make money, but I didn't really have any job training. I didn't go to college. So I really found myself in a position of, oh my God, I got to make money. What am I going to do? So yeah, started when I was 40. I'm 58 today, still going strong.
Period. Love it. I love it. Yes. And I loved your story when we chatted for the first time because I think it's important for us to hear like the real raw and uncut story. Like you didn't come from entrepreneur family. You didn't come from, people that were already making 6 figures. You literally had to start fresh with a family. And I really think that that is a lot of us women out here that are worried about starting over. So I would love for you to just share a little bit about that backstory from when the divorce became final and what you do actually and what you started doing. I'd love for you to share with the listeners about that.
So when I got divorced, I was always a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to be everywhere my kids were. I wanted to know what my kids were doing
Yeah.
all the time. I was not the most well-behaved teenager.
I
I
understand.
set out to be pretty involved. And, but one income has always been tough. And with neither my ex-husband nor myself having college educations, we started at the beginning from the ground up. We drowned in debt forever. I didn't get out of debt until a couple of years ago. I mean, that's a long hike. But yeah, so when I was married, I cleaned houses. I had like 20 clients. I was great at what I did, but I hated every single second of it. But it allowed me to be present for my kids.
Yeah.
So when I got divorced, I years ago I had given myself permission. We had this big move, and I told myself, "You do not have to clean other people's toilets anymore. Do something different."
I
And
love
so
it.
and so I did. But it wasn't that much more glamorous. I was a substitute in the cafeteria at the elementary school, and then eventually I was hired on the playground of all places. I worked on the school playground for 7 years. Blowing a whistle, nothing glamorous.
Yeah.
But when I got divorced, that wasn't even going to come close to paying the bills. Not even close. So luckily, having that type of job, I had my summers off. And so I had already kind of been dabbling. One of the other little side hustles that I'd been playing around with was buying and selling. It was kind of a fun day for me and my friends. We'd go to auctions, we'd find things for the home, or I would buy something. Oh, I wonder if that's worth money. I could get it for cheap. So yeah, I started to make money a few years prior to that just on random things. So I was like, okay, well, I've kind of already started this. Can I
Yeah.
make it go, So I started to go to auctions more. I would go after school, after my playground shift was over. I'd go on the weekends. And I think it took me 4 years before I was good enough to go full time, to quit blowing whistles on the side.
Those type of things can take a while, but let me tell you something. You really like stepped up and like kind of got creative, but you made it a fun thing. When you started it, did you look at it as something that you would be doing as a business, or was it something that you just was like, "Oh, this is something fun with my friends as a hobby?"
I did not look at it as a business at the time. I was certainly hopeful that I would make some good money because, like I said, we
Right.
were we were in debt for so long. So any
Yeah.
money that I could make was good money. But yeah, I just bought strange things, and it was surprising and fun when they made money. I'm like, really,
Yeah.
you want that? And buying and selling on the internet was still kind of new. It was in its first decade on eBay. I think it was 2003 when I
Oh, right.
first opened my
Oh
eBay
my
shop.
God, yes.
I I got divorced it was official in 2009, but I started doing it officially as a business in 2008. So it was about 5 years of kind of dabbling with it before I decided, you know what, let's see what I can do with this.
Yeah.
But I did enjoy it. And yes, I could have gotten a job, factory, whatever. But my daughter was 14. That's a really awful, ugly age to start leaving a kid alone home
Tell me
after school.
about it.
So, it's not really what I wanted to do. And I
Right.
did get some pushback through the grapevine of people that I knew that said things like, "Well, you should be going to college." And it's like, "With what money?"
'Cause let's not forget that that's a big factor here, people. Like,
Right. Number one, I have to make money, not spend money. Number two, if I'm going to school and going on to the recess during the day, when? How? I had to come up with something bigger and better than that. And
yeah,
maybe when my last daughter left for school, maybe at that point, if I still hadn't made a go of something, maybe then it might be time to think about going to school. But again, it's that you're already living life. The luxury, I know people that do both, and hats off. But, it just wasn't gonna happen for me, and I knew that.
yeah. I wanna ask you too, because the level of things that you had to do to get there, how did you, like, keep yourself going, when those type of things were happening? Like, figuring out, if this was something that you wanted to do as a business, or was there ever the thought of, "Screw it, I'm just gonna go find a job?" Like, did you have those moments?
There was an opportunity, the school, they had this position of secretary at the elementary school was becoming available. I didn't really want it, but I
Mm,
kind of felt like I should try for it, you know? And it
yeah.
was, gosh, I made the biggest fool out of myself. It was right after the divorce and things were still really fresh and still really raw and I was easily emotional. And I knew the principal and the vice principal. I saw them every single day. I worked in the
Right.
office, we knew each other. And I went in there for that interview and I got emotional. So they were like, "Well, why do you think you want this job?" And then it's just like, "Well, that's just," and so they like pulled me aside. I don't know. A week later, they're like, "We're really sorry, but you're not going to get a second interview." It's like, it's all good. I would have
Right.
been really surprised
Right.
if you
Really,
did.
you just don't know how you saved me with not giving me a second interview, like, for real.
I really I didn't want it. I honestly didn't want it. I've
Yeah.
always been a self-starter. I'm a horrible, horrible clock puncher. Terrible. I mean, late
But
by
you
3
know it
minutes.
though. But you know it though, and I think that that's one thing, in just talking to you, I can just tell that you've always had that self-starter mindset, that self-starter mentality, like, "I know that I'm gonna try to make a way out of no way," and I think that that really is a huge part of being an entrepreneur. Really putting things together, making a like I said, making a way out of no way. You did that and you continue to do that. Because I want to kind of move forward a little bit because like you have, you do resale and things like that. You've been in this game for like 20 plus years, Kira. So I just really
Yeah.
am curious to talk to you more about like what you were doing back then versus now, because you still are heavy in it. And I'd love to hear your insight on what you feel has changed from back then to now when it comes to that.
And going back briefly, you're talking about having what it takes to be an entrepreneur. I mean, the biggest, I think, thing is stick to itiveness and
Mhm.
learning how to pivot.
Yeah.
Uh, if it doesn't work this way, okay, go this way. Be
Right.
open to what else can I do with this. So
Yes.
it started on eBay. Like I said, I would buy anything and everything that nobody else wanted. If it was in the garbage pile, I'd pick through it. If nobody was bidding on it, I would buy it. Why not? It would cost me next to nothing. And if I had to turn around and recycle it, donate it, throw it out, whatever, it was all part of the learning experience too.
Right.
That isn't to say that something that was worth money 20 years ago is worth money today. That's
Right.
all
Right.
part of learning the craft. You have to kind of follow the tide and you have to do your research. It's staying on top of it continuously. I mean, eBay started out selling Beanie Babies. Nobody wants them anymore.
And they did.
So, it's you have to learn to change, be adaptable to change. So I was just cruising along, cruising along, cruising along. One day, I bought a bunch of fabric at an estate. The woman had been a quilter, a crafter, whatever. My new husband, he was brand new in my life, and he takes me to an auction with his pickup truck.
God. Well, we already know that bad buddy was full.
Oh, I stuffed it full, and I never bought fabric before, but I went a little crazy, and I started
Mhm.
stockpiling, and yeah, every little nook and cranny of that truck was full. But then I had to learn about it 'cause yeah, I do upholstery work. I can make a t-shirt quilt. I can sew, but nobody ever taught me to sew.
Mhm.
I can't use a sewing machine. I'm lost. Everything I do is by hand. But yeah, I know a little bit about fabric, but going into trying to sell fabric, I knew nothing about fabric, nothing at
Mhm.
all. So that was something I had to learn about too. There's something to be said for talking to other people. There's something to be said for seeing what other people are buying and selling and kind of looking to see what people have to say about it. I learned things about burn testing. You can take little snips of fabric and you can burn it to find out what the fabric is made out of. And then I had to learn how to date fabric. So there were all these different variables that came into play. So
Wow.
little by little, I started to learn more and more and more. And as I was learning more, I wanted to buy more and I wanted to have like a big inventory. Prior to that, I would bring things home. I would list it. I'd give it maybe 2 weeks. If I couldn't sell it, it was gone. It was out of here. Go away. So buying fabric was the first time that I said, "You know what? I'm gonna keep an inventory like a real store and see
Yeah.
what happens." So people would come, and as I got better at it, they would start to fill a cart. And the bigger my inventory grew, the more they'd put in their cart, the bigger orders I would have. So it became something that wasn't paying me tremendous amounts of money, but it was paying me every single day. And
Yeah.
maybe it meant that I could go to the grocery store in the middle of the week and buy a loaf of bread and whatever. It
Right.
was paying me
Right.
every single day. And I'm like, I kind of like this. I'm not waiting for auctions to end. But anyway, it got to the point where the fabric was really kind of getting lost in everything else on eBay because the eBay is where I make the big money on
Uh-huh.
it's the quick turnovers, the big turnovers. So that's when I decided to open my Etsy shop, and that was in 2016 that I moved all my fabric over to Etsy. So it took me 8 years,
Yeah.
before I split into 2. So I do run both shops now. Again, eBay is it's the fun one that pays me crazy amounts of money, and Etsy is the one where I spend the crazy amounts of money. But, I have so much fun on Etsy, and
Yeah.
I've got a strong customer base, a lot of repeat customers. I have a really good, conversion rate. Yeah, I've met so many great people, and it has led to so many other things. The
Yeah.
Etsy shop led to the books. It started the books. The books started the public speaking
Right.
and
Because we haven't
podcast.
even gotten to that
We
part
haven't
yet. Like,
gotten there yet. So
I
it just
love it.
it
I
just
love it.
exploded
Yeah.
after that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Etsy's a lot of fun, and it still pays me every single day. It pays me more now, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And something you mentioned a few minutes ago, like you really came up with your own strategy, right? Something that somebody would probably listen to this and be like, how in the hell did she make a business out of fabric? You did. You said something like, I got more fabric and that made people want to get more fabric. They seen you had it. They're like, oh, I got to get it. I'm curious, like your creativity with that. How was that when it came to marketing for like the fabric and stuff like that? Because that's a unique item, right? Even though, we can go to a Michael's or we can go to a Hobby Lobby, whatever else, but like actually purchasing something like that online, what was like your creative thought behind getting it to sell?
Something about fabric that is very true of of anything collectible. It applies. You wouldn't think that it would. People would be like, oh, it's just fabric. But fabric goes out of print. Fabric becomes vintage. Fabric becomes unattainable. Fabric sparks memories of people of their childhood. When they see a piece of fabric, they're like, I had a dress made out of that. Fabric resonates with people in a way that I did not expect. And I think that I went after fabric in the beginning. Yes, it was cheap, but like anything else that I was selling, once it is an obsolete item, doesn't matter if they currently make it, it's not made like it once was,
Right, right.
so it just was a different lane. It was the same, but it was different. So what happened when I got onto Etsy, and here's where the writing got little crazy. I didn't know it was going to happen. I've always been a writer since I was a kid. That
Mhm.
was my dream for years and years and years and years. Tried and failed for decades to write novels, finally put it away when I got divorced. So I have these Etsy pages. I have this fabric. Some of these fabric auctions have started to get a little bit competitive, if you
Mhm.
will. I'm meeting a completely different crowd of people. There's some really great stories behind
Yeah,
it. Great stories behind the grandmothers that are stealing because I'm buying all the fabric, or, behind the competition that is beating me up one side and down the other, the auctioneers who really don't care about fabric. There's just all these little stories,
right.
but the people who use the fabric, they do care for some reason. I found that out accidentally. I was just writing little notes or narratives, and I was like, "Hey, you wouldn't believe what it took to get this collection of fabric." And then
Mm,
maybe I would talk about where it came from, who owned it beforehand. It just became a way to set me apart from other people that were selling fabric, because people were visiting my site. Maybe some read, maybe some didn't, but nobody else was really talking about it. Everybody was just selling fabric, and nobody was really sourcing estates like I was and hunting down the collections that belonged to somebody else. Nobody cared. Nobody was putting the heart behind it. And especially today in a world of AI where you can ask AI
mm,
to write your descriptions for you, standing out is the way to go.
yeah, it
That
is.
was how I stood out.
That part. Standing out is the way to go. People, I'm not saying not to use AI as a tool, whatever else, but you want to make sure that you are standing out as a business, as an entrepreneur. Just because people know who you are doesn't mean that they're going to buy from you. She took a completely unique idea and made it a brand. And I am just in love with the story. Like, you made it a story. You made it to where people are intrigued about it and they're probably going to spend money. People like to buy the story. People like to
Yes.
buy, you know what I'm saying? So I love that you turned and spun that like that. That's dope. And you're continuing to do that, because let's talk more about how you have scaled things, with the books and the speaking and all of that. Please share more about how you got into that and how things are going for you now.
So what happened with these stories that I was sharing, um, the customers of mine. Now I'm going to throw this number out there to give you an idea. I don't know how many are repeat customers. I'd have to go back and visit. But
Right.
in the 18 years that I have been full time, I've had more than 56,000 sales
Ugh,
between eBay and Etsy. So
yay!
I mean, that is an opportunity to get to know your people, right?
Yes.
They started to ask me to write a book. I got enough requests about writing a book. Somebody would message me and they would say, okay, I just spent 3 hours doing nothing but reading your stories in your shop, and you really need to write a book. And so it's like, to be that person that somebody gets squirreled on in their shop. I mean, I get squirreled watching reels
Right,
enough.
me too.
So to be that person that somebody got squirreled on, you're like, wow, really? Seriously? So
Mhm.
it was a full circle moment because I always wanted to write anyway. I didn't think I was going to write nonfiction. I never in a
Right.
million years thought that. But storytelling is storytelling. If you're I'm talking about real characters now. It's not somebody that I made up. It was
Right.
almost like a cheat sheet. It was like, oh, well, here's your character. Let's write about it. Yeah. So I wrote the first book. That was back in 2026. It was back in 2023. I was 55 years old. Yeah. Never too old, never too late.
Ever. Never, ever.
Never ever. And so I have this book and I'm like, okay, well, the people spoke. Now it's my turn. So I started printing off all these notes. Hey, you told me to write the book. I published the book. Here it is. It's the book. You can buy it in my shop. I can sign it. It can be a gift for somebody. You can buy it on Amazon. You can buy it here. You can buy it there. Just something. I changed it up all the time. A paragraph that I was able to copy and paste 4 or 5 times on the same piece of paper, print it out, get out my paper cutter, flump, 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 nice stack of notes, sign something on it. Thank you. I appreciate you. With dozens of packages every week, free advertising. Here you go. And yeah, I sold books that way. I gained more customers that way. Again, another full circle moment.
It
It was,
was.
it also, when you write a book and you publish a book, it doesn't just promote itself. You can't just have it appear on Amazon one day and then sit there and
Tell
watch.
them again,
Yeah,
please.
you can't just sit there and watch the screen and reload, reload, reload. Did I sell one? Did I sell one? It doesn't sell itself. I'm like, okay, what else can I do? Because yes, I've already got this audience, but what else can I do? I started to think about, who does my product speak to? Okay, well, it speaks to people who make things. Okay, well, what do we have? At least in the Midwest, it's very, very huge. I know they have them elsewhere, but there are these things called quilting guilds where it can be hundreds of women, sometimes a few men, get together once a month. They make quilts. They talk about quilts. They
Mhm.
swap fabric. I'm like, okay, these are my people. This is where I'm going to start. So I started sending out, yeah, tons and tons and tons of emails to all these different quilting guilds because they hire speakers all the time.
Yeah.
Speakers that show them how to do things, speakers that talk about what they make, or speakers that wrote a book, speakers that have things to sell. And since they only meet once a month and they don't have guest speakers every month, it probably took at least 6 months before the appointment started kicking in. But
Yeah.
I don't know, gosh, I did quite a few. I did, I don't know, maybe 20 first year or two. But
That's
yeah,
all.
I would go and I would sell books like crazy because I was taking it to the people. I could read a chapter from the book. I could bring fabric, sell fabric, pass out business cards. I did make connections with quilters who wanted to unload their own stashes.
Another kind of currency. I love it. Another kind of currency because that's what that
Another
was.
kind of currency. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Your story is so unique. I love it. But you have just dropped so many gems when it comes to strategy and marketing and advertising. Like I love the free advertising that you did. I love that you are really a walking testimony of being creative, sticking to what it is that you want to do and enjoying what it is that you want to do. Because we want to start businesses, and I teach this all the time, being purpose driven in your business, being purpose driven and being passionate about it. You may be passionate about it, but it doesn't mean that you need to make it a business. But you've literally turned around and made it multifaceted, like in different areas, different levels, making connections and continuously doing so. Because I know that you haven't stopped. You are full fledged. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine what you got coming up. What's coming up right now? Because I know there's something you gotta share with us and let us know.
What accidentally happened with this whole thing, and I didn't even know what I was doing at the time because this is something that people just started talking about in the last 4 or 5 years, but I was creating a brand.
Yeah,
And I did not, like I said, I didn't know it.
yeah,
I was making this circle. I was finding anything free that would help me, you know? And so now I've got this business, and there's no fabric business out there that's like me right now. There's none. Not only do I repurpose fabric, but I also repurpose old textiles, quilts, and clothing. It's amazing what people will buy for their projects. And this is a huge generation for repurposing, recycling, upcycling. So being able to tap into that and to take advantage of that is important to know too. You
yeah,
have to kind of follow your audience and to see where they're going.
yeah.
So,
I agree. I agree.
I have a quilting guild that is coming up. I pulled back on it in the last year. One, because my dad has been sick and I don't want anything on the schedule that far in advance
Yeah,
that I might have to change. But it also gave me an opportunity to really explore podcasting more. I did have a producer reach out to me for reality TV, like 6
Mm,
weeks after the first book. She was somebody that got one of those notes in my package. So,
I
but
love that. Look at that. That is so dope, yo. So dope. The power of determination
yeah,
that
yeah.
you didn't even want. Like you're like, I wasn't trying to do no podcast, but the power of determination and the power of consistency and you doing just something that it is that you love, cutting out a note and putting it in a package. Like, I love that. I think that's a personal touch that we're really losing in
Mhm,
society, and especially as business owners. We have these tools that create things for us. Me personally, I still like original content. I still like that's why I have 2 podcasts, because I
right.
still like to do original things. I still like to have original conversations. So, I think that that is awesome. But listeners, if you didn't get anything from this today, understand that the power of creativity, the power of passion, and the power of determination can put you in places that you never thought that you would be able to do, and that it's never too late to
Mhm.
elevate. I started a journey of coaching and transformation at 44. So there is never, ever a time where you can say, oh, I can't do that. I'm not able to do that. And I want to ask you as we get ready to wrap up, what advice would you give for women that feel like they may not be creative enough? Or they may feel like it's too late, or they do have a product and they just really don't know how to possibly market that coming out the gate. What advice or recommendations would you suggest?
Look for the little wins along the way to keep you motivated. I mean, being broke for so long, it was easy to go right to, God, I just want to make money.
Yeah.
But, there's is so much more than that. There's so many, there's little wins. I had to, at some point, I had to create a product for the vintage fabric, textiles, things like that, because old things have smells. And I had to
Mhm.
find a way to clean it, especially delicate things. So I
Yeah.
was able to create a product that effectively cleaned old textiles. It works in the dryer. I was on a podcast. I don't know. I can't even tell you which one it was, but I had a random woman come to my shop. She was considered a guest on Etsy, which means she had not officially signed up for an account. She was not a paid customer of mine, but she bought both editions of my book and a 3-pack. They're called Grammy Whammies, a 3-pack of my Grammy Whammies. And I know she heard me on a podcast.
Uh,
But for somebody to put a simple 40 bucks in my hand entirely around something that I created, that's all me, it's like, really? I mean,
yeah.
somebody put $40 of their money of faith in me. And that was a little win.
That's a huge win to me. I love it. I know that was a sense of fulfillment, a sense of just
Mhm.
inner happiness, a sense of like, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm aligned right here, right now, and doing what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. I love that. I think that that is so dope.
Don't know a damn thing until you try.
If you know that you have something that you are thinking about, something that you've done, for years, and you're like, let's see, there's nothing wrong with trying. If it doesn't work out, that's okay. But you can go to sleep at night knowing that you tried something. It may have been successful, it may not have been. But I tell you one thing, there's things that I started or tried that I'm like, yeah, this is not for me. But I still have that sense of satisfaction knowing that I attempted. And that's at the end of the day, that's what I want you guys to understand. You won't know until you try. I want to thank you so much for coming on here and just bringing a unique episode to the Woman's Hustle. You are what it's about. You are what
Thank you.
exactly what this is about, sharing your thrills and spills. And your story is phenomenal. And I just want to tell you to continue to do what it is that you are destined to be doing, girl. You are killing it. And I appreciate you being here and sharing your story.
I appreciate you inviting me on. It was fun.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, y'all. Listen, at the end of the day, get up, figure out what you want, take action. All right. If you are struggling trying to figure out what it is that you want, trying to get clear on anything when it comes to starting a business, learning about the ecosystem of your business, or worrying about your alignment on a personal note, then do not hesitate to reach out to me. And let's talk about how we can get you purpose driven in your life and business. All right. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Share this with somebody who needs the inspiration to start. All right. And make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Until next time, stay empowered.